Cool. Okay, so there you go. This is for a very specific subset of people who are very upset in my DMs.
Yeah, so Ethan's upset with, I think, some of our connections, and, we've tried to reach out to Ethan to talk privately. Basically, it just seems like we're at a bit of an impasse, so we want to stay out of the drama as much as possible. We don't want to pile on and add to anything. So this is our, lukewarm addressing of it. It's, we're always open to talk, privately, especially. And, we'll, the door's always open.
Yeah, the door's always open. I want to, really drive it home. We don't condone harassment. Of any kind.
This is absolutely pathetic in every possible way, and we're gonna have to talk about it. Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and in a recent video, we talked about how the escalation from people in Jenks Nephew's fan base, in the streamer Denim's fan base, and a bunch of other online creators against Ethan Klein has gotten to absurd degrees in that they are now calling in fake child protective services claims in order to have Ethan investigated, as well as trying to get him committed, and how Ethan has had absolutely enough. And you don't need to know all that much about the characters in today's video. This is iDubbbz and his wife Vanessa, other than the fact that they have been friends, and specifically Ian, iDubbbz, has been friends with Ethan for well over a decade, and throughout the course of them discussing this on their podcast, because they went through a reformation where they became woke as well, they have decided to backstab Ethan. iDubbbz has decided to call an end to harassment on all sides, not specifically condemn efforts of these people who are attacking Ethan and trying to get investigations launched into him in order to take his children away from him over a petty disagreement on politics. It's absolutely crazy from top to bottom, and we're gonna break it down. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
We don't condone harassment of any kind.
Condone harassment of any kind.
Of any kind. Okay, period. Which is why we have not stuck our foot in any of this, because it is not productive. I don't think it's helpful.
So look, I gotta be perfectly honest with you guys out there in the audience. When I first saw the clips of Ian, iDubbbz, and his wife Anissa doing this, we're not really gonna take a stand thing, Ethan probably has mental issues and whatnot, and we're not gonna back him up kind of deal, I thought that there had to be more context that proved that these people weren't as cowardly and as weak as they were presented in the Twitter clips. So I went to the original podcast, which, by the way, not doing all that well in terms of viewership and the like to dislike ratio. And it turns out the additional context makes it even worse. And again, what I need to emphasize is that Ethan had been friends with Ian, the iDubbbz guy, for over a decade. He's been friends with the wife ever since he met her and was a girlfriend, which probably is around a decade. And Ian has decided that he's not going to back him up when the harassment on Ethan has gotten to the level where they're calling in fake child abuse complaints against him, launching investigations into Ethan and his family, very intrusive investigations that we talked about in a previous video.
And these are real people who have real feelings.
I think I want to pivot this into something that I don't think I didn't touch on it in my apology video many years ago. Was it many years ago? Was it 1 year ago?
A few.
Yeah. I think in that video, there was I had a lot of feelings. And, I think the most obvious one message that, made the most sense to people was me apologizing for slurs and just being generally insensitive to minority groups and people in general.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I maybe should have added to that, but I think it was kind of implied if you're really looking for it, is the harassment. I think harassment online is we felt it. We felt plenty of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why there's been a shift in my content, is because it's not healthy for people's brains, and it like doesn't get you anywhere. Like,
so this is probably one of the most disgusting portions of the entire segment. First and foremost, Anissa, iDubbbz's wife, the woman featured right here, posted on Instagram.com, which is referenced multiple times in the comments, that she doesn't owe Ethan anything. So she has taken a side. The side that she's taking is Cenk's nephew's side, that particular side. And the idea that you're going to say, we don't endorse all harassment, like blanketly, when the situation is Ethan disagrees with Cenk's nephew politically. He makes a video based on the misstatements and the support of terrorist organizations, by the way, called the Content Nuke. And the response to that is for them to target his children, to launch a CPS investigation based on a phony abuse tip. And you're like, well, we don't support harassment on either side. No, one of these is greatly different in scale to the other. One of these people you've known for a very long time. And while iDubbbz has spent maybe the last 5 years apologizing for ever being funny on the internet.com, Ethan has backed him every step of the way in public, and forcefully so. While people were attacking iDubbbz, saying that his wife Anissa ruined him, that she basically turned him into a weak, cowardly loser, Ethan backed her up as well. He said she was cool. He endorsed her. So Ethan has always had these people's backs, and by contrast, Cenk's nephew had shamed iDubbbz as an evil white racist and all sorts of other nonsense as a pipeline to the alt-right that was just never true in any way, shape, or form. But, of course, because these people have embraced the woke, all forms of humanity, all forms of human connection are done with because Ethan has left the cult. And again, what Ethan left the cult on, as I've emphasized multiple different times on this channel, was not that Ethan is pro-Israel and the cult is pro-Palestine. It's that Ethan, who 98% agrees with the pro-Palestinian position, was upset that his friend, Cenk's nephew, would not condemn calls for the murder of every single Jew in Israel. Now, Ethan's wife is Israeli. Ethan has in-laws that are in Israel. He lived in Israel for 5 years, so you can understand why he won't support people that refuse to condemn those who call for the death of all the people that are in his wife's family, all the people that he knows in Israel. But again, that was enough for them to take it to such an extreme level that they harassed Ethan for a year, and now they're targeting his family. They're ending up attacking them through the use of child protective services, wasting government resources in order to do so. And in response, iDubbbz, this absolute weak coward who's been friends with Ethan for over a decade, who has had his back for over a decade, has decided to say, you know what? I condemn all the harassment on all sides, and we just want to stay out of it, and we'll reach out privately. And Ethan's a little bit upset because my wife said we don't owe him anything because we're taking the other side. We're just too cowardly to do so. But you know, it's just we don't want to stay in this drama content. I mean, when your kids are under investigation and you're under investigation for abuse over the fact that you took an actually reasonable position, that's just drama content when you leave the cult. And again, I shouldn't be surprised by this. I remember when Anna Kasparian took some very normal positions politically, and all these different various lefties came out of the woodwork in order to backstab her, in order to push themselves up. So we should not be surprised that iDubbbz is doing the same. And by the way, a bunch of different people in the comments, and if you watch this show, you're probably somebody who stuck with iDubbbz through all the different controversies that he's been through, are saying, we supported you this whole time, but this is a bridge too far, and it is a bridge too far. This is scumbaggery to the nth degree, but again, this is your brain on leftism. Ethan disagrees with a ridiculous pro-terrorist position put forward by Cenk's nephew, and you think that's equivalent to these people gathering up in all these different online communities and targeting Ethan and putting up a fake child protective services investigation in order to intrude on their lives and potentially get their kids taken away.
The last thing that they needed, and this is my attitude, like, full stop on this period. The last thing somebody who's going through something like that needs is more eyes on it and more like people weighing in, right? And like, that's why I'm kind of angry that we even have to like talk about it here, is that like, whether or not people who are in it right now realize it on any side, the more people who weigh in, the more people who add to the conversation, the more people who amplify it, the worse that it gets. We were in it, and at the time when we were in it and we wanted...
She's referring to us kind of going through hard time on the internet, being harassed, videos made about us, people weighing in.
People still make videos about us. And at the time, before like we got help, before we went to therapy, like, yes, there was this attitude of like, why the fuck aren't people saying things? Why the fuck is no one like saying how wrong this is? Like, of course we had anger about that, but like we had to, now that we've gone to therapy and we've worked through all these things, like, one, the videos have not stopped, right? The comments about us have not stopped. What has stopped is me caring about it, me looking at it. And when you stop, when you get the help and you realize that this is like something that you cannot control at all and it doesn't have to affect your life, that's the only way it gets better.
Yeah.
Things piling on, things adding to it, people weighing in, people throwing punches for you, does not help.
I mean, again, what is this weak nonsense? Your friend, somebody you've known for 10 years, somebody that I don't know, somebody that I'm not even a fan of, Ethan Klein, is being harassed by this rabid mob who are going in and trying to intrude on his personal life. They're calling in threats. They're calling in fake abuse claims to CPS. And you're talking about how, oh, I remember when I was getting harassed for stuff related to minority groups and yada, yada, yada. Shut up, iDubbbz. Honestly, shut the hell up. You face some online commentary. You face some people who didn't like that you were actually funny at one point in time, and now you're comparing that and saying, oh, that's basically the equivalent of the harassment that Ethan's getting, which is in the real world. It's real world harassment. It targets him. It targets his wife. It targets his 3 children, age 5 and under, and that's like the same thing. And I don't feel like Ethan, who definitely did publicly have my back, had my wife's back that whole entire time, had my back enough when I really think about it. I don't think Ethan was a good enough friend to me, so I'm going to take this opportunity to backstab him, and then I'm going to act virtuous about it, while at the same time, I'm going to say that Ethan Klein is mentally ill, which, by the way, that's what they suggest. They suggest Ethan, who is under investigation by Child Protective Services, go to therapy in order to deal with what is going on internally, because the problem is Ethan.
Things are complicated.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends when I did my apology that did not with it in the slightest.
Yeah, they didn't agree.
And they still don't with it.
Yeah.
They
And that's
don't
fine.
agree with it. And, you know, I don't really expect them to come to bat for me or anything if they don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't expect them to speak up, period, on any of it.
I appreciate that they don't.
Yes.
Because it just makes things more complicated. It's like, I can get a read from you with like what you say or don't say. And, you know, that might change private relationships, sure, but that's life. Like, that's life. You know what I mean? Like, people go their separate ways all the time. Again, like, the worst thing you can do is feed into it.
It's not only not having the tools, like, emotionally, psychologically, but it's also having the support system.
Yes.
Friends, family, therapy, like we mentioned. Like, that's something that you can get, and it does a lot. It's powerful.
Predictable schedule, hobbies. All these things.
Yeah, that's great.
Again, I should not be surprised. Friends of Anna Kasparian for years ended up backstabbing her at the earliest convenience over minor petty political differences. So to me, it makes perfect sense that these people would do this logically, because it's so illogical, but they're in a cult, so this is under the cult logic. But it's still absolutely disgusting and repugnant and repulsive, because I would never backstab somebody like this. And again, I would never want to support the people who are doing this to one of my worst enemies on the internet. I understand that there are greater things than internet politics, and attacking somebody's family, targeting somebody's children should be at that level. And the thing is, the people who are doing this to Ethan, they're not even repentant about it. They're not even sorry that it got to this point. Again, I played this clip in my other video of Denham's when she was confronted with the idea that Ethan and Hila feel like this would be traumatic for their children, because being interrogated by a government agent at age 3 and 5 on whether or not your parents are abusing you due to some crappy internet drama could in fact be quite traumatic for a young child. And rather than say this has gone too far, rather than say that this is inappropriate, rather than say, you know what, the people in my audience that are expressing some level of sympathy, who are thinking about the humanity of Ethan's children, the innocence in this regard, those people, they're correct. They're right. This has gone too far, and I'm going to objectively call for it to stop. Well, guess what? She didn't go in that direction. Instead, she went for the further dehumanization direction. She said, oh, don't worry about it. 3 and 5-year-olds, they don't retain memories at all whatsoever. And then she pulled up an article that said that she was wrong, and then she doubled down on them not retaining memories.
And then the part that, in my opinion, crossed the line was like, so I'm going to visit your kids at school and ask them questions. And I says, you're not doing that. I mean, we both were like, that's not happening. You're not going.
Terrifying.
You are not doing that. So he agreed to come visit our house
next week
when the kids are at home, because he needs to interview our kids as a matter of procedure.
But I was like, I really don't want you to create any bad memory here for them. Like, they are 5 and 3. They don't understand this. So I told him,
create any bad memory for them. You're not forming memories at 3 years old, and it's very rare that you're forming memories at 5 years old. Nah, yes, you are. No, you're not. When we're talking about being able to remember, being able to recall memories, it's like 4 is the cutoff. But even if you are forming any memories at 4, you're not going to be able to remember them past like 15. You have maybe 1 or 2 memories.
Now again, what is the point of doing that? What is the point of saying that? The point of doing that and the point of saying that is to encourage further harassment, is to tell the people who feel like maybe this has gone too far that you haven't gone too far. You should continue down this trajectory, continue down this road, and the impact is more targeting and more harassment of Ethan's family. And this is after the visit to the home. This is after the waste of government resources. She decided to do this. It's in response to them being upset about this that she is encouraging members of her audience, and this is a Jenks Nephew orbiter that Jenks Nephew has endorsed time and time again, to continue on this path. And by the way, they have pledged to continue on this path.
Yes, you are. No, you're not. When we're talking about being able to remember, being able to recall memories, it's like 4 is the cutoff. But even if you are forming any memories at 4, you're not going to be able to remember them past like 15. You have maybe 1 or 2 memories. Talking to a random stranger once isn't really memorable for a kid. There's a wide variation about the mean across methods, cohorts. The average age of adults' earliest memories is 3.5 years old. You're not really forming memories at 3.
So for Ian and his wife Anissa, and more so for Ian because he's the one who was friends with Ethan prior to this, he's the one who didn't start out as this rabid, ridiculous leftist, to say, oh, well, Ethan needs therapy, Ethan needs to deal with this, when these people aren't even showing an ounce of contrition, when these people aren't even showing an ounce of backing down, is cowardice to an extreme. It is absolutely evil. Yes, we are at that level, because there is one thing that is evil, which is doing evil acts, and another thing that is evil is when you don't actually call out those evil acts, when you allow them to continue, or worse yet, what they're doing right here, which is trying to encourage further evil acts. They're trying to ingratiate themselves in the community that is targeting Ethan's children, and I'm not here for it. It's disgusting in every way. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, and the idea that this guy put himself up as a moral arbiter on the internet.com years ago, calling out other people for their bad behavior and other people for their hypocrisy, only to do a 180 and be on the other side of this, to be on the dark side of this, while Ethan, by the way, is coming to the light at least a little bit, is absurd and insane. And by the way, there are people in my comments who will say, well, Jordan Peterson warned Ethan Klein. We all understand that. Or they'll say that Ethan Klein said some terrible things. Again, we all understand that, and Ethan actually acknowledges that at the beginning of his content nuke of Jenks Nephew. But the fact of the matter is, saying terrible things, getting a warning from Jordan Peterson, does not mean that it's acceptable or fair to target the man's children. Again, I have my problems with Ethan Klein. I have my problems with H3H3's podcast. I find it to be incredibly boring. I find his takes to be incredibly basic and uninteresting. But the fact of the matter is, this is beyond that. This is a completely different level. The people that he's up against are way worse. These things are not the same. And again, the false equivalency that you're seeing from iDubbbz and some people out there in the audience is really just weakness on full display. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I happen to be 100% right about this, but if you disagree with me or you agree with me, let me know down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about iDubbbz backing the harassers. Till next time.